Can you all hear me? Because I had a hard time doing this. I'm new to this. So if you can put something in the chat, let me know if you can hear me before I start doing any cooking. Can y'all hear me in the chat?
Yeah, it started.
Okay. Okay. All right, everybody.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm going to start first with the beef stew recipe. And what I've done with the stew meat, I got it all cut up. I actually put it in with a little bit of olive oil, just pepper, and I put some meat tenderizer on it, and I put it in the refrigerator for about, it's been there about 3 hours. So it kind of helps tenderize it. And when I took it out a while ago, I took and breaded it with some regular flour and cornstarch. So it's gonna, I'm gonna go ahead and start my skillet over here, grease, and let it start. You need it on the about a little above medium, just one notch. I've got an electric stove, but just kind of guess you don't want it real high. And I'll let that heat up. And then I got my crock pot ready because we're going to brown the meat in the skillet, and then I'm going to transfer it to the crock pot. Now, in the crock pot, I took some of this is a beef bouillon base like this, and I took about maybe a tablespoon of that, and I dissolved that in some hot water, about 3-4 cups of hot water. And to that, I added some garlic powder. You just kind of guess at it, guys, and thyme, because you're going to have to taste it to just, and don't put any salt in it because this stuff is extremely salty. I put regular paprika, not the smoke, but regular paprika. And I take, when I have to have tomato paste, a lot of times I'll open a can, and I always have too much. So what I do, I take the rest of it and I put it in a freezer bag and I freeze it. Then you can thaw out what you need. So to that broth that's in the crock pot, the other mixture of things I just told you about, I put about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and 1 package of the Lipton onion soup mix. Let me see. I also took about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch with some warm water. Flour with some warm water. This is your slurry to thicken your stew with at the end. So this is mixed up, and I've got it in a bowl over here because it's not time to use that. Let me check and see if, I don't think that grease is ready. Let's see. No, it's not there yet. It's going to be a couple more minutes on the grease. So anyway, I took and cut up carrots and the potatoes like this. I cut the carrots up in about pieces like this. And I'm using the little bitty small potatoes like this and just leaving the filling on them. And I washed them real good. They say to leave that on because that's where a lot of your nutritional value is in, through a lot of the peelings. And also I just recently learned on the, when you use fresh ginger, they tell you now not to grate or not to peel it before you grate it. Just go ahead and use it because there's a lot of the health benefits is actually in that peeling. It's not, it's actually in the peeling. So now they're trying to go ahead and grate with that. That's just a little tip. And I cut up one probably about medium to large onion in little pieces. And I have some frozen peas. This is probably about, I don't know, about a cup, a little over a cup and a half. And those will go in at the very end. After, I would even put them in after you thicken your stew because they'll get mushy if you don't. So that, I'm just telling you, that's what I do. So while I'm waiting for the grease to get hot, I'm going to go ahead and put this chopped up onion in the broth over here. And I'm going to move this over here now. So hold on, guys. You have to let me get used to doing all this stuff because I am not used to doing things like this. So let me see. No, you won't probably be able to see me actually cooking the stew meat. But anyway, I got to learn how to adjust this. So what you do, just go ahead and start browning your stew meat. That's going to go in your crock pot because this is just to get it a little bit, but shake off as much of the flour as you can because that's already going to be a little bit of your thickening agent, but you don't want it to get all clumpy in your skillet. And if you want to, guys, you can go ahead and preheat your ovens to 375 for the cornbread because while this meat is starting to brown, I'm going to walk you through the cornbread. Since it's going to be browning, and I'll come back and forth. But I want to get this meat started. Doesn't have to be, you're not going to cook it done. You just want to get a little bit of the coating on it to go in the crock pot. So that way you're not putting it in totally raw without any breading, on it, texture on it. And I didn't use, but this is probably maybe a pound of stew meat, right at a pound. Not any more than that. And I just throw the stuff in the bag away and take the glove off because you're done and you don't have that flour mixture. Let me show you. This is what it's gonna, you can see, there it is. It's gonna be frying in that. Then I'm gonna take a pan like this. The size is an 8-inch or 9-inch pan and just grease it because that's gonna be for your cornbread, which I'm going to have you mix up now. And then we're going to do, we'll do the fruit salad last one. I'm waiting to finish the stuff up on the stew. So in a bowl, you're going to have, your ingredients are flour, cornmeal, buttermilk, baking powder, salt, 1 egg, and 1/4 cup of sugar, and 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. That's what it's going to be for your cornbread. So this is 1 3/4 cup of sifted flour. And I'm going to show you all something. I went blind, I'm sorry. I want to show you the difference. I put in a cup and 1 3/4 measuring. And after I sifted it, I had this much left. That's the difference in your flour measurements. So I actually took 1 3/4 cup, then I sifted it, and then I measured it 1 3/4, and you come out with a totally different measurement at all. So you had, this is like almost between 1/4 and 1/2 cup left. So, and the texture of your flour, I'll show you. The flour is more like a powder after you sift it. And let me see here, something. The flour is more like powder once you sift it. And then before you sift it, it's got all these clumps in it. And that'll give you better measurements. I learned that the hard way by having a lot of recipes and stuff that didn't turn out. Let me check the meat real quick. I'll be right back with you. It's doing fine. Okay. So that's 1 3/4 cup of flour. There's 3/4 cup of yellow cornmeal. You can use white too. I'm sure it doesn't make any difference. Let me see here. There's 1/4 cup of sugar. And I'm going to kind of mix this together with the spoon a little bit. Just get all that in there. And there's 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt that I'm putting in. And the flour is going all over, so don't mind me. I'm kind of a messy cook. So. And 1/4 cup of oil, vegetable oil. I have 1 extra large egg. You can use large or medium, it's not going to matter on that. And this is a cup of buttermilk. I use buttermilk. I think it makes much better cornbread and biscuits if you use that. So let me get a whisk, get this out of the way, and check that meat again. Yeah, the meat's still, it's cooking okay. All right, here. Then I'm just gonna take a whisk and I'm gonna mix this up. Now, I may have to add a little bit more milk to it. It just depends on, you know, your flours and the temperature and things like that. But most of the time you have it about right. And again, that's greased 8 or 9 inch pan and at 375. And make sure your oven's is, you know, preheated. Makes it a lot easier. And I've got that pretty well mixed together. Let me check it with the spoon. Make sure everything out of the bottom. I do. Okay. Okay. And it's going to be a little, because of your buttermilk makes that baking powder stuff kind of look like it's trying to puff up a little bit. That's just the way it does. Let me turn this to meat a little bit. It's browning. But you can kind of, doing the things we're doing today, you can multitask and do this while you're mixing up things. I do. But if you're new to it and you don't cook a lot, then it's fine just to do one thing at a time so you're comfortable with what you're doing. So now I'm going to get the pan that I greased. My oven's ready. I like cornbread with stews and vegetable soups sometimes. I think it's just something different, you know. And just to make sure you spread it out pretty good on there. Okay. And I just kind of shake the pan down, plump it on the cabinet, and then that way it's all even. And I go ahead and put it in the middle of the oven. And then you've got your cornbread. Well, let me get this flour up so it's not a mess all over when I'm trying to do this fruit salad. Now I'm going to make a fruit salad. I've turned that meat, and I'll stop here in a minute to do that. Take the meat up. But I do have, what I did for the fruit salad, it's an apple salad. I call it a fruit salad, it's actually apple salad. I took some apples and I peeled them, cut them up in pieces about like this. And I took a half a lemon and I strained the lemon, make sure you get so you don't get the seeds. And I put the lemon juice on the apples because that keeps them from turning. And I cut up some red grapes and green grapes. Because of the humidity and stuff, I didn't have any marshmallows. They were kind of all stuck together, so I didn't put any of those in there. And I took about a half a cup of, I use golden raisins because I think the others are a little tougher. Put them in some hot water, and I let them sit and kind of swell, and then drained them good. And then you can add that in. Go back, check the meat again. And I'll show you in a minute about what you want it to look like when you're going to put it in your crock pot with the broth. And I already had the crock pot heating on high with the broth in it because for the gravy for the stew meat, because it would take too long. And I don't want to keep everybody for hours on here because you're not going to get a stew cooked anyway in that length of time, but it's just a crock pot. Now for the dressing on here, I also took and crushed up some walnuts and put in there. You can add other fruit. You can add stuff like you could put up cut up fresh peaches in there if you wanted to. You could drain pineapple chunks and put in there if you'd like. I've seen people even take and drain fruit cocktail and put it in there, but I'm using sour cream based dressing, so I just stuck with that. And to that, I'm going to take I'm going to say it's about a cup of sour cream, and I'm gonna add about 3/4 cups of sugar to that. And because this is going to be the dressing, and it'll thin out. Looks thick, but it will thin out. And this is gonna be the dressing for the fruit salad. And I put just a tiny bit of cinnamon, ground cinnamon in there, probably about 1/4 of a teaspoon to half in there. And just kind of mix this stuff up. I'm using just a little bit of clear vanilla. You can use the one that's colored vanilla, but I like the clear for things like this. About one of the little capsules. Like I said, guys, I don't measure a lot of things. So let me check this meat again because it's probably ready to take up. And it is. And I'll show you what it's going to look like before I put it in. And I'll get this set up a little better where I can move things around. This is the first time live, so I've got to learn how to move things around and move you all with everything. But I'm trying to do as much of it, just cooking from scratch today as I can instead of recording, things. Because I'm going to talk to you all of it after I get the fruit salad made while the cornbread's cooking. So I've got take it off the burner. And this is a consistency of what your meat should look like this going in the stew. It's going to look about this color. Just, lightly brown. And it's going to be pretty tender because I can almost with the spoon go through the meat. So that meat tenderizer and that olive oil and putting it in the refrigerator. I put a little black pepper in there too. Don't use any salt, like I said, because the bouillon is extremely salty. And so is your onion soup mix. And if you find out it's too salty and you need to get rid of some of the salt, you can either dilute a little bit more, or you can take and actually add like a teaspoon of sugar at a time and stir it until you get that salt taste out. That will kind of help resolve the matter with your too much salt. But try to just not salt anything and taste that broth before you put the meat in it, so you know that it's, you may want to add a little bit more spices to it, something like that. It's going to be thin because it's going to be cooking the meat and the carrots and potatoes. And then you'll take and add your slurry in there. You can kind of put things, well, actually before I put the potatoes in, just with the carrots and meat, I'd actually go ahead and thicken the gravy, because I wouldn't want it to break your potatoes up. But your potatoes and your peas going to last. Your potatoes are the next to the last thing because they don't take as long to cook. So I'm going to put this in, and I've already got the onion in here. Wish y'all could smell it. It smells really good. And so it's already got and just take at that time and just go ahead and lock your crock pot on. Just lock the lid to it. And this was, I don't know if I showed you or not, but this was the difference in that the flour in the measurement, which I wanted to specify that with you in baking and stuff. Please make sure you sift your flours, because I'm telling you, you're going to get a totally different measurement if you don't. And then people wonder why their cakes are tough, or even their pancakes or waffles or biscuits. It's because they didn't sift the flour. And also another thing, when you have liquid ingredients first in there, you can stir those, and when you're using a cake like with the mixer or anything, you can let that be however long you want it to. And the liquids, if you're getting other things around. Once you add your flour, don't over stir. It's just like with your meat. Once you get everything in your meats for your meatballs, meatloaf, anything like that, once you go to mix that, make sure that you don't overmix it, because that's what makes tough meatballs. It makes tough meatloaves. It just doesn't work good. So now I'm going to show you. See that sugar and that sour cream just sat here and thinned out, because that's what it does. So it looks like it's going to be real thick, but it's not. So like I said, I don't put stuff like bananas, or you could use some drained mandarin oranges. But the only thing about them, they're going to get soft in here and they're not going to hold up like your apples and your grapes, your nuts will in here. So, but like I said, pears would be a good thing. Fresh peaches sliced before they're, I'm sorry, there's a call coming in. Sorry, guys. Okay, there was a call trying to come in. So if peaches or pears, it's not real ripe, you could cut them in small pieces and put them in. But not, I wouldn't, or maybe some green pineapple chunks or fresh pineapple. But I just wouldn't use any of the soft fruits like the bananas and things like that because, or I know some people do use the canned fruits, but I just think it has a tendency to make it mushy. So anyway, that's going to be the fruit salad. You can see it, or this apple salad. It didn't take long at all to make, and it kind of takes the place as a salad and a dessert, and it's kind of nice to have after, I think after vegetable soup or a stew or different things, meals like that. So I wanted to let y'all know that that's why I chose to show you all that. And like I said, don't worry about your sour cream once you put the sugar in, thinking it's going to be too thick. Just let it sit there. Once you put a little bit of cinnamon in, not much, just a little bit, and you take and put your just when you add it when your vanilla, and just let it sit there for that little bit of time, because you're going to find out that it'll get that soft for you right away. So anyway, let me come over here, look at the chat and see what everybody's saying on here. Does anybody have any questions about anything? I don't know if anybody wants to know anything or not on here, but I did want to specify about your flour, because I've learned that just through bad experiences, and it's only been in the last couple of years I learned that how important it is to sift that flour, and it just makes the cornmeal you can't really sift, but it just makes a lot of difference in it. But anyway, and this isn't a real anything real rich or anything. I mean, it's kind of just something nice to have in the summertime or early spring, I think. Thank you all. I need that because I'm totally, like I said, I'm totally new to this, and I know I can get on there and talk with me, or I can get on there and talk with Miss Menza up on the lives and even show my face there. That doesn't bother me, but it's different when you're trying to cook and move around. I mean, it's even easier doing the videos because you've got everything kind of halfway made, or you've pre-made, you've got everything. I tried to do as much as I could so you all could see. And I'm going to go over here and show you, see if I can show you this stew. I mean, I've got this tripod, but it's just trying to adjust it and stuff. So anyway, this is, y'all, let me see if I can get that in the picture. There's the crock pot right there. And let me open this. I just don't have enough counter space for, and there, let me see. I don't know if y'all can see. There it is. There's the stew. And you have about this much broth on it, and this will be thickened with that slurry. But like I said, let this cook. I got to check the cornbread too. Let that cook. I would say on the high heat, it needs to cook about 3 hours at least. And I would, at the end of about 2.5 hours, I would add the potato or the carrots. And actually, I let it go. Most of the time, I let mine go about between 3 and 4 hours. And then put the carrots in, let them cook. If they're cooking pretty good, within an hour or so, then I add the potatoes. And but like I said, before you add those potatoes, go ahead and thicken it with that slurry. Retaste your broth, your gravy, and make sure it's where you want it, because you may want to add a little bit more seasonings to it. But don't, like I said, can't specify this in here. Don't add any salt, because that onion soup mix and your broth is it's just heavily salted. So You can always add salt, but trying to take it out is kind of complicated, other than adding that little bit of sugar, and you can only add so much of that at a time, or you're going to have it to where it's going to have a sweet taste to it instead of the savory taste that you want. So just letting you know. Let me check this cornbread real quick. Probably not ready, but it's getting there. And it's getting there. And that's something else, guys. You don't want to overcook, your cakes or your cornbread. The pineapple cake I did in the video yesterday, I tell you, you're going to think all at once. You're going to think that it's not cooking, and just bam. I mean, like in 5 to 10 minutes, it's done. And you don't want to overcook it. But it is a very rich cake. The icing, I think, is what makes the cake. And like I said, I think a good cup of strong coffee or hot tea with it would be excellent. And you could probably even put a little bit of, if you really wanted to, put some whipping cream or something on it. You really just need it. But that icing with the coconut and the nuts in it and the butter, it is what makes the cake. The cake is just kind of, the cake reminds me of it's between like a pumpkin or banana bread or some kind of bread like that, like one of your sweeter breads and a cake is what the texture of the cake reminds me of. So it's kind of between those. But it will hold up for a good couple of days, 2 to 3 days. And that is good to take like to a church or for a social thing, or even that would actually probably work pretty good for a picnic, as long as it's not extremely hot, because it's already got the icings cooked on it. So it's not going to have, it doesn't have the powdered sugar in it, where it's going to have a tendency to get warm on you. But that's the extent of what I have today. Tomorrow, I'm not probably going to try to do the shish kebabs and rice. And I'll use some of that meat that I had left that I told you all about from the roast. I'm going to cut it in pieces and tenderize it to go on there because it was so tender. It was just unreal. And I'm going to use some mushrooms and the colored pieces of, I'm going to cut up some peppers that are colored. You can use the green ones too. And then the little button mushrooms on there. And I'm going to get a bag of the shrimp at Walmart. So they didn't have, they're supposed to have it later today. I'm going to run down there in the morning to get it. But it's deveined, and it's it's already deveined, but you have to take, and I think it's already got the peeling off too. But anyway, I'm just taking season the shrimp up with some seasonings as I do with the meat. And the meat, you really don't have on that. You don't have to cook it real down. A lot of people don't like their meats cooked, real long. So I would say you could do it about medium, when you're cooking those shish kebabs. It's too hot here. It's been like almost 105, 107. It's been extremely hot. So there's no way that you catch me out grilling. But this is a way that you can do it on an inside grill, or you can even do it in the broiler on low. But anyway, that's what I'm going to put on them. It's going to be some red onion, the little button mushrooms, the colored bell peppers, and I'm going to use the shrimp and the pieces of beef on that. And I'm going to cook, I don't know if I'm going to do a vegetable. I'm going to do some kind of a rice with it. I might do a wild rice maybe with it. Might be good to go with that, with just some like kind of chicken flavored wild rice, or the beef flavor, whichever broth I decide to use on it. And then on either Saturday or Sunday, I'm going to do with the cube steak, I'm going to do chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes and gravy, and I'm going to, we'll probably have, I don't know, peas and corn with that. I like peas, the others like corn. Fix that. That will probably be on Sunday. I'm thinking, yeah, I'll probably do that Sunday. But Saturday, I know for sure I'm going to make some homemade biscuits. I'm going to show you how easy it is to do that and how inexpensive it is. And I'm going to take just a little bit of sausage and make a sausage gravy, and I'm going to fry the rest of the gravy. I'm sorry, the rest of the sausage and patty, so the kids can have a sausage biscuit sandwich. But I'm going to make a little bit of the sausage gravy because I like that on biscuits. But biscuits are very inexpensive to make, and you can make a lot of them. And the only thing I'm using for that is I actually use self-rising flour. But if you don't have self-rising flour, you can look it up. You can Google it and it'll tell you how much baking powder and salt to put in it. That's the only difference. And I'm going to, like I said, sift that for that. And I use either Crisco shortening or I use lard because to me, those are the ones that make the best. And you don't have to use a lot of, and I always use buttermilk. That's all you have to have. If you have the self-rising flour, oh, I do use a little bit of baking soda too, but self-rising flour, baking soda, and either Crisco or lard and buttermilk. That's all you need to make them. And you can make a bunch of them. You make them different sizes. And again, if you have just regular flour, make sure that flour is sifted, and I'll go through that with you when I make them. And I'll show you how I sift it and stuff. If not, you can make you up some self-rising flour. Just look it up, Google it, and it'll tell you how many cups of regular flour with your baking powder and salt to put in, and that way you have it either way. But a lot of people have self-rising flour anyway. So if you all have anything that you would like me to do, I'm going to do maybe next week some chicken and dumplings. And I'm thinking about later on, it's a little bit hot right now, but getting into some like chili. I might make some sloppy joes one night, things like that. I make a big chef salad with the meats and cheese, and we'll do some boiled eggs for fun. That ought to humor everybody, I'm sure, that watches this. Anyway, so I hope that I've helped you all a little bit with some dishes. That's what I'm trying to do. And I have some more crock pot recipes that I plan to do in the future, but I also would like to do, a lot of people don't even have crock pots, so I want to do a little bit of cooking. And also with this too, if you don't have a crock pot, you can take and go through the same steps that I just did, and you can take and put that in a big pan and cook it on your stove and cook it on just medium, and just come back and check it and make sure you stir it and watch it. Add your vegetables in as your meat is fork tender. Go ahead and add your carrots in, or if they're close to being, the meat's close to being fork tender, go ahead and add your carrots so they can cook. And then you can add your slurry to thicken it and retaste your gravy again. And then you can add the wedges of potatoes or those little small potatoes, whatever you have. And then at the last, after the potatoes are cooked, you can just gently stir it and then just put your peas in, because those peas, they'll cook in maybe 3 minutes. I mean, they're going to cook in the gravy anyway, just from the heat, but I mean, they're frozen peas. So I just usually take them out and let them thaw so they get drain it, get any liquid off of them. So anyway, that's where I'm at on this. And like I said, you can add other fruits to your fruit salad and stuff. Let me check cornbread, see if it's done, or I can show you. Yeah, I think it's done. And to check your cornbread, it's done. When you check your cornbread, I'm just going to tell you this, guys. Make sure that you just set the, what I do, I put a fork, even in a lot of things, different things. I'll just stick a fork in the middle like this. And if that fork or the knife, I'm sorry, comes out clean, it's done. And like I said, don't over bake it, because you don't want it to be tough. And this is, you're going to have a size. And see, it didn't take hardly any ingredients. It didn't take long to do that. Also with the fruit salad, you're going to find out most of your work is your prep work. That's probably 70% of what you're doing is your prep work. And then of course, putting the stuff together, maybe about 15%, and the rest of it's just cooking the stuff and watching it. I'm going to get into frying some chicken breast, and I actually thought about making chicken and waffles too, because a lot of people like things like that for dinner. And I think I might just make some chicken and waffles too. But anyway, that's the end of what I have for y'all today. And I hope it's been of some help to some of you. You know, I'm trying here. So anyway, I'll probably set the live for tomorrow about the same time, about 3:45. Now that I know how to do it, it'll be a little less trouble getting this to start and coming on here, you know, to talk to y'all and do everything. So y'all have a good evening, and let me know how your stew and your cornbread and your salad turned out, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye bye, everybody.
Did you stop it?
Yeah. Okay.
So end broadcast,
Yeah, I did it.
you have to press